We'll have to see if it's still relevant. ICOs, you know. That looked like a requiem to Bitcoin. And the music, if you remember the music, was the main song from Schindler's List. So, yes. So that was very, yeah, I'm not sure in the right direction. She said moving. I'm not sure it was moved us in the right direction. Up and up. I'm with Celsius. We only like high temperatures. High. It definitely testing yourself with buying Bitcoin at these prices and Ether. Anyway, so we're going to talk about ICOs, what works, what doesn't work. Open it. We'll do a short presentation and then open it up to questions. And again, thanks everybody for staying late. You want to start presenting yourself?
Why don't you start as a moderator?
All right, I'll start. Alex Mashinsky, I'm with Celsius Network. I'm based in New York. Serial founder, did 7 startups. All VC backed. I raised over $1 billion from venture capital, and $3 billion in exits. And this is me giving back. So I'm building a decentralized peer-to-peer platform that helps people basically get loans and earn interest on their crypto. We only lend to crypto holders, and the whole system bypasses the whole banking system. So we don't need the bank in the middle. Everything is about community. Everything is about enabling a decentralized, consensus-based open ledger on which people can help other people. That's it.
Hi. Thanks, Alex. Well, I mean, it's a lot less about us than about you, right? What you would say. But anyway, I'm part of SOSV. It's the biggest VC accelerator in the world. I'm also part of an ICO advisory called Cypher Ventures, helping out some ICOs. Previously helped out Gifto, probably maybe the most known example, $36 million, raised that amount of money in 3 minutes. Yeah, so have been, and on the side, I've been regularly talking on AI, blockchain, and innovation. So yeah, thanks.
Hi everyone, Victoria Silchenko. I like to call myself an economist turned entrepreneur, helping out other entrepreneurs with financing strategies. We are based in Los Angeles. I'm also on the board of Los Angeles Venture Association. Again, as I mentioned, I'm an economist. I actually used to work at the Milken Institute, Michael Milken, if anyone knows, king of high yield bonds. We don't like to call junk bonds. So also have been doing my own events in Los Angeles, actually uniting, as I like to say, traditional investors with disruptive investors. So basically, again, I work a lot with venture capitalists, with angel investors, and ICO market is relatively new for me. Since last year, I also write for the Huffington Post, crowdfund insider. So if anyone would like to get some rather basic knowledge about ICO, why we ended up with ICOs, I highly recommend you to Google my article, Ice Wild Shot, ICO as a new fundraising path. I was told that it's a pretty interesting article with some sense of humor. So thank you so much. I'm not sure I have a lot of answers. I probably have more questions, but as an economist, but would love to basically get involved. Audience, maybe we can do like Q&A, something. But again, sorry, I'm not moderating, I forgot.
All right, so I've been advising a bunch of ICOs, also invested in about a dozen ICOs. What do you guys feel? What has changed? Like if you look at 2 years ago, a year ago, a month ago, how would you talk about what is different now versus what the world looked like back then?
Okay. Well, ICO concept, I think, is, let's call it relatively new. What changed from, let's say, the beginning of when this started taking off till, let's say, a year ago, and then, let's say, last 2 months, is that I think initially, and again, if anyone has any correction to that, you're welcome. I think initially a lot of people jumped on it because, number one, there was no precedent. So a lot of two-man shows who came up with this very interesting term called white paper. I don't know how many of you know what white paper actually is. White paper is a scholar long-form article, and there is a reason, probably some of you know why it's called even white paper in ICOs, but skip that. So a lot of people started doing it because this was considered a good way to raise money. There was a lot of, and still is a lot of disillusionment about the regular VCs, and so this was a quick way or an easier way, so to speak, to make money. And unfortunately, because there was no precedent, there is this worship or enchantment with this new technology, so a lot of those made a lot of money. Now, some of those companies that did this are still around, a lot of them are not. What changed, let's say a year ago, a lot of Asia also jumped in. So 2017, end of 16, 17, you saw also China and many Asian countries jumping on this bandwagon. But due to the fact, and again, if you, like yesterday I was mentioning in a panel about history, if you look at history, there is precedence to this sort of a cycle, right? So suddenly, authorities are starting to wake up to this. Suddenly, due to an amount of scam, a lot of, not just governments, a lot of consumers are feeling that they are cheated and they're raising red flags. So there is a lot more pragmatism in ICOs nowadays. Like the whole concept of KYC or AML or ML, anti-money laundering, etc., started coming stringently to this field. So now, when you talk to an ICO advisor or you're a company who wants to do an ICO, if you talk to serious advisors, they're not going to say, oh, yeah, show me your white paper. White paper is just one of many factors. They're going to see what you are, who is your team, do you have a track record, do you have an existing product? So now ICOs are a lot more about business and technology, and it's business 101 or tech 101. Basically, they're going to do their due diligence. And still, I mean, sure, some of the white papers and some of the two-man shows still manage to do a nice and probably scammy-ish type of an ICO, but it's much less. That's what I would say is the difference, a lot more pragmatism.
I would just say that, well, again, I'm an optimist, and I would like to say that I feel that market is maturing. From the industry, basically, analysis, I see that if a few months ago I rather see particularly projects, when I like to say finances itself. So we have fintech, new platforms coming out, new products, financial products. I see right now ICO popular in healthcare, also energy. So I see more industries being basically involved. I think it is a good thing. What really worries me, I actually also teach entrepreneurial finance. And what worries me is that quite, I would say maybe 95% of at least projects that I see, and I'm also investing myself. How to put it diplomatically? I'm not sure people really understand what they are doing. For example, traditionally there is a reason that company is raising capital by stages, right? So it is raising 200, for example, K, then it goes gradually to 500, then Series A, 1 million, then 2 million, 5 million, so on. So when you're basically asking for 100 million, right, and you're actually getting it. What worries me is that people really know what the use of funds are, how they're going to deploy it, how they actually scale business. So my question would be, is there a life after ICO? Because it seems to me that ICO is an ultimate goal, but I would love to basically move towards to, next stage of ICO development when we say, okay, I've done ICO, so this is a tool, and what is my goal? So basically, what I would love to people started to focus on a company mission and what is the problem that they're trying to resolve as opposed as basically, okay, I do ICO and this is the amount of money I want to raise. So somehow this has become a goal instead of the tool that, to achieve a goal. So I basically was another thing that worries me, and I shut up in like 2 minutes. I was reviewing a few pitches yesterday, and I can see that a good half, if not more, projects don't even need a native token. So, and I'm not a tech guy. God, I'm still hiring people to just, to build a website for me, honestly. But I always want to ask, why is it supposed to be, on blockchain or why do you do the? And again, there are so many other options. Obviously, again, even like simple crowdfunding. Angel investors, venture capital, and I hate to say that, absolutely hate to say that, but I'm an economist, I like numbers. So basically, last year in the US, there were over $600 billion by small and small business loans, basically issued by state and government. So so basically, my point that there is capital, right? So we need to understand what companies should do ICO, as we know that only less than 1% basically of companies VC fundable. So because VC have particular metrics of criteria that the company should match, such as, for example, total addressable market of at least $1 billion, and obviously exit strategy, because VCs are investing in companies that clearly whether should be acquired or go public. So that's their value. So what is the value of a token, right? How do you value token? What kind of companies? I mean, obviously, I love the fact that the world is becoming global, because obviously, if you think about e-commerce, right? Any kind of retail, it became already global a lot of time ago. But capital finance is just becoming global. So how do we structure this? And now I shut up. Sorry about being so.
Yeah, I just want to give a chance for a Q&A as well. So I'll give you 2 seconds of my view. So this is a revolution. It's not an evolution. The last time we had a revolution was the internet itself. And there's a lot of excitement all over the world. People are leaving companies like Amazon and Google to jump into this revolution, right? So this is ours to either deliver or lose, right? And every day we're being tested. The whole community here is being tested. Are we delivering the next big thing? Are we just going to cede all of this opportunity to become a evolutionary thing that a bank or an insurance company is going to plug into their own system? So if you think of a corporation as a centralized architecture, for the last 700 years, those companies basically got bigger and bigger and bigger. Today we have the largest companies in the world. The internet actually enabled companies to become dominant globally, right? If you think of Alibaba or Google or Facebook, they're globally dominant, centralized organization. And crypto/blockchain, right? The open blockchain is the opposite of that. It's fighting that structure. It's fighting centralized, dominant architecture. The internet tried to deliver that. Remember, some of you are old enough to remember when the internet was born, 94, 95, it was supposed to be open and transparent and power to the people. What do we get? We got like 5 or 6 monopolies, right? The banks are bigger than ever. The social companies are bigger than ever. So it did not deliver on the promise. We all use the internet every day, but it did not deliver on the promise. So currently we're going through a Cambrian explosion of experimentation, right? And just like a few 100 million years ago, nature went through Cambrian, through the same thing. 99% of all those species died. Do you know who survived? Anyone knows who survived the Cambrian explosion? All of us sitting in the room, right? And we got to dominate this planet. So same thing here. Most of these companies, probably 99 of 100 companies in the hallway over there are going to die. It's just nature. In the United States, less than 5% of companies survive more than 10 years. Okay, startups, right? That's just statistics. It doesn't matter if it's in blockchain or in startups or anywhere else. So my point is that if we take care and invest in projects that are revolutionary, that are really here to replace centralized systems, we have a chance. If we're going to invest in projects that are just taking a little bit of blockchain and injecting it into a bank or injecting it into an insurance company or injecting it into a real estate company, in my opinion, all of this will fail. The other piece of it is that if we all just have speculators in the room who just sell coins to each other, we have no chance of survival. We need the next 100 million people or the next billion people to adopt this platform, and we have to give them something they can use every day. Most of these projects don't do any of that, right? So we're not investing the precious capital that the community is entrusting us in projects that are helping the community, right? We're just trying to make a quick buck. I'll stop there. So how do you identify, my question after all this long speech is, how do you identify good projects? What do you look at to really separate the wheat from the chaff?
And I think that's the trend, and I wanted to add something to what Victor is saying. I completely agree, but before that. So the trend is you have to look whether you are the ICO doer, or you are the advisor, or you are the VC. At the end of the day, like Victoria just mentioned, it's all business as usual, okay? I know this is maybe not very sexy or trendy in this kind of a context where a lot of people worship each other, and Vitalik Buterin and whatever token they have. Yeah, but you have to always think that it all boils down to business. And business has components, right? It has business, tech, legal, team, product, platform, problem, all of these things. So any serious person who is going to talk to you, whether they do an ICO advisory or help or crypto funding, they are going to ask this kind of question. So Bitcoin or blockchain or whatever you want to call it, blockchain itself has few dimensions, right? You deconstruct. Blockchain is what? It's a tech that allows, yesterday we had the regulatory panel here, right? Blockchain is a technology. And some people think it's great and revolutionary. I sort of beg to differ. Decentralization have been around for a while. Look at history. In anything, decentralization has been going in and out in cycles, whether that's government, that's tech, that's whatever. So this is just another cycle. It's a nicer cycle. We are in it, so we feel this is so unique. We are so unique. Yeah, it's great. But so it's a tech. On the other side, there's a business model next related to it, like Alex is saying, right? The tokens, the way you go about engaging the community or distributing value to the community. Because blockchain is one of the main things, and the difference between internet and blockchain tech is that internet democratized information. Blockchain is democratizing value. Internet is the exchange of unit of information. Blockchain can be a value. Unit of exchange is the value. That's what you can exchange on blockchain, right? So it's tech, it's business, it's legal, and it's community, right? How you distribute that value, how community is getting engaged and participating in whatever system or token you have. So if you think of it that way, there's nothing sexy or cool about it. I mean, yeah, it's cool, it's cute, it's vanguard, but that's what it is. And that's what I would suggest all of you to think about, whether you want to do an ICO, or you're on the receiving side, or you are an advisor or some sort of an intermediary. Always think, what's in it for me? Or what's in it for that entity that comes to you? And then break it down into the usual business as usual components.
Oh, I'll just add that again, as business as usual. I love that. That I would start from again. What is the problem you are trying to resolve? And the second question would be, what am I funding? And do I actually need a blockchain? Do I need a native token? My question sometimes that I've been getting so many white papers for the past, you know, six months. And sometimes when I review them, I really have a questions. Are you serious? Just that was just almost ridiculous to the point that this must be a joke. So we live in a digital world, right? So my sincere belief that the most important currency we all have is our reputation, right? Is our character, and again, our mission, right? So when you make a step to the wrong territory, right? And intentionally, I would say, right? I'm not sure why people would jeopardize that. Again, I'm an idealist, right? So I write poetry and I play piano, right? But I sincerely don't understand such people. So I would love basically to see more mission-driven companies that understand not only how they do ICO, but why they do ICO, and based on these two questions.
You have a question?
Sorry, I wouldn't mind if you did. Mike Davey, Data StreamX, we're a ICO or a company. But my question is, like, we're a VC-backed company, and the topic of the panel was sort of supposed to look at like anchoring lead investors and anchoring advisors. Can you give some advice to some of the people in the room here? From our understanding, that's what the panel was going to be about, was talking about anchoring the advisors. Can you sort of touch on that? As a company, what type of advisors you'd be looking for? Are you looking for long-term advisors, short-term crypto advisors? Can you guys sort of touch on that as maybe companies in the room on how they would start looking for advisors, the right advisors for long-term growth?
Sure, I'll take that first. Advisors and investors are very important. I mean, especially if you're a first-time entrepreneur, a lot of the credibility comes from these people lending their credibility to your project and to your idea and how you're going to do things and so on. Choosing them is not easy. There's people who are advising 50 projects, they're just putting their name on it, and they're trying to just collect free equity or free tokens. So you really need to find people who are passionate about what you're doing and understand what you're doing, and they're willing to go out and help you with introductions, with meetings, with roadshows, with everything else. So very few people actually do that. I mean, most people, if you look at their ICO, their project, you'll see that they have 20 advisors. And, you know, like you never saw any of these advisors ever with a company anywhere, right? So that, for me, that's meaningless, right? So you know, I'm an advisor to 3 companies. I invested in them personally. I'm on the roadshow. I'm on the phone with them several times a week. And I say no 50 times a day. Today I said no 50 times. Several people in the room here, okay? So I'm passionate about certain things, and I'm only looking to help those things. Again, I made a speech before about what I'm passionate about, and I think this is a revolution. Anyone thinks that this is incremental, doesn't understand what this is all about. This is not just yet another small incremental adjustment to how we do business. Part of the experimentation that's going on is really to see, can we apply this to something revolutionary? This is about humanity. This is not about transfer of value. For me, this is about humanity. This is about humanity changing the complete architecture of why you wake up in the morning. Today, you wake up in the morning because you need to go to work, you need to earn something so you could pay your bills. And the companies are structured to, the entire society is structured that way, right? So again, if you're doing a project that is trying to do what I'm talking about, guess what? Your investors are going to be people that are anarchists, or people that want to change the world, or people that they have a different reason for investing. They're not VCs that want to flip and sell after 3 months, right? So if you have a project that's just trying to fix the banking system, which is nothing wrong with that, but I'm just saying, then you have a different set of investors. So it's not like there's no catch-all here. And you just need to really understand what you're trying to do, be true to your cause, and find people who are true to your cause.
I think Alex said, I think we differ in some of the opinions,
Fine.
obviously, which is fine.
There's 7 billion opinions on this planet. So.
Correct. I think one thing that, and I agree with Alex on this, is that you have to find, and I know companies, I mean, I've been a startup looking for investors as well. So what you have to look, and that's why maybe I'm more pragmatic than on average, but you have to look for advisors who have few criteria, right? Let's say someone who has been in an industry, that's an interesting criteria, not a definite, but that's definitely a plus. Someone, I think basically because you have to cover your business, your tech, your legal, depending on what you actually need in your company, right? I think there is a hype, like what Alex is saying, all these crypto investors, I'm going to put parentheses around it because they are investors. Way of investing is different, it's new, it's revolutionary, but they are investors. The foundations of business, if you really go all the way down.
They're guppies as of today. They used to be whales, now they're guppies. You know,
yeah, well, but at the end of the day, the foundations are the same, right? So to me, crypto fund, like I know startups, and I like you, I advise a few, they say, no, but we need a crypto investor. What does a crypto investor do? If you look at most of what you would call a crypto investor, none of them has any track record or any business or take or any understanding. They are not crypto investors. They are people who have some money, mostly token, and they want to put it somewhere. Do you call them an investor? No. You want to put their name on your paper? You go ahead. But I'm saying this because there is a hype on a lot of startups who are from traditional background and they have actually good product and stuff. They look for this. I would be very skeptical about it. I know there is a hype and a lot of people say, oh, let's say BitShares founder is on my advisor or whatever, and that's great. Some of them are actually solid people, but be very wary of just putting a name just because they have some, let's say, Telegram group or some sort of a credibility like that. Just look for real people, think of it as a business. What you need, what you don't have. Put one or two who have been longer than the ICO rage that's been going on. Maybe that would help. But at the end of the day, again, the white paper is still called white paper. I know already 2-3 funds, they started calling it a business plan again, which is what it should be, right? So be very pragmatic. I mean, I'm going to repeat the word pragmatic, and maybe I'm not as trendy as a lot of people here, but it's a new way. I agree. It's a very new way. And a lot of people have to wrap their head around it, but be very pragmatic in what you need. You need someone in product, someone from industry, someone from legal, and maybe someone who is really good at tech, and maybe if someone since 5 or 6 years ago has been around evangelizing and stuff, maybe you need ideally that kind of a crypto person. You don't need a guy who has 50,000 YouTube or Telegram followers and he calls himself a crypto investor and crypto influencer. There's a term that I like that as well, right? So yeah, that's my 2 cents on that.
Yeah, I just add that when you mentioned who are crypto investors, right? And there is basically, the confusion about the terms. So I think that cryptocurrencies are representations of value within a network, and this is very different, and that's what basically confuses just about everyone, including myself. So how do we value a token, right? How do we value a network? So back to your question, that's basically a good time for me to advertise my company. But let me just say, I'm a great believer in self-educating. And a lot of times when probably someone asks me, oh, how should I do this and this, instead of me telling, hey, listen, why don't you hire us as advisors, I would just say, why don't you Google it? I seriously love this tool, and it amazes me that a lot of people don't really use this tool. I just basically finished my very first online course on fintech done by Oxford. 3 months, very intense. I had no idea that it would be so intense. Highly recommend. Take a online course. Again, I'm just maybe just me. I like to be self-sufficient and not dependable on any advisors. Again, talk to me. Happy to see how we can help. Also, I know quite a few attorneys who work in the space. Obviously, you want an attorney. You want finance guide. guys. And again, the conference like this is also a great venue to find good people, I believe.
Other questions? No questions. Any answers? Anyone wants to answer something?
How many of you is doing an ICO or wants to do an ICO? Raise a hand. That's 20%, 30%? Okay. Oh, there's... Wait, there's a lady... Yeah, go.
Part of the topic was how to onboard anchor investors. Can you please throw some light on that?
Anchor investors. So an anchor is usually the first investor or the biggest investor. Doesn't have to be necessarily the first one. In the VC world, again, I did 7 companies. I can tell you every company I did, I went and pitched at least 200 times. So I got no's at least 200 times for every company. That's how hard it is to get an anchor investor. And usually you try to go to the Valley, and I have two of the companies I started are the 2 of the top 10 exits in New York in the last 20 years. So it's not like these are, medium companies. These were 50, 100, 200. One company did 10x for their investors, right? So when I pitched the idea, they all thought it was crazy. It was a stupid idea. We'll never give you any money, right? So if the idea is not crazy enough, then chances are it's not a good enough idea, right? So finding that anchor investor is the hardest thing. It's not like a little project. So if you don't, and the problem with the ICO world is that the investor, most of the investors, most of these whales we're talking about, all they're thinking about is when are you going to be listed on an exchange so I can sell my coins? In the VC world, the anchor investor is thinking 10 years. And he's thinking of putting 3 more rounds of funding, like was said here before. So this is doing the IPO first, initial public offering, and then building a company. It's everything upside down, right? So a lot of this is good because it's giving opportunities to create new things, but a lot of it is also bad. So again, if you have a great project that can get funding from a VC, I would tell you don't do an ICO. Because the minute you did an ICO, you're not going to get any VC funding. If you cannot get VC funding, and it's a revolutionary project because VC is just not going to say yes to it, then you need someone who believes in the idea. It goes back to the conversation we had before. Someone who wants to change the world, or someone who he's thinking, I'm going to give money to philanthropy, or I'm going to give it to you. That's how they're thinking. And they're not going to sell your tokens right away, because if they sell the tokens, all you're doing is you're deferring the need to raise money or finding new investors and so on. So all these things are connected, and you have to think through that when you choose every person who's joining your community as an investor.
Yeah, I have very little to add on top of what Alex said, so I think you covered everything, at least in my view. It's exactly that. Unfortunately, a lot of crypto investors are very short-sighted in that. So you need to really see who is in it for long term, and you have to persuade them that you have a good idea or a good problem solution or whatever. There isn't much. It's a business as usual. Sorry, I'm going to say that again. It's a business as usual.
So I'm just questioning why you even ask about anchor investor. I mean, if you do an ICO, so by definition you are looking for, what is ICO? ICO is basically decentralized crowdfunding. So you basically, look for money, for a small amount of money from a large number of people. So based on your question, I can assume that you go traditional way, yeah?
The marketing budget itself of ICO can run into maybe $250,000 to $500,000. So you need that sort of a money. And if you are supposed to founders, I doubt that you have that sort of money to seed that, right, in most part of the emerging world.
I'm not sure about your project, but and I'm not sure why. Again, any project can be started from MVP, minimum viable product. So I love this community of dreamers. I love that, but just sometimes we need to make small steps. So that's why again there is a reason that the most successful companies where basically, you know, finance always by stages. I actually have a great charts how Amazon was financed. You know, the first, you know, 50,000 and then 100. You know, friends, family, and fools, friends, family, fools, angels. You know, that's how you know great companies are built. And again, I'm not sure. I love how Alex said that, you know, everything is upside down, and maybe the way to see that we all will be learning by doing. You know, but again, I'm just asking why you're asking this question. Again, I am probably coming from, you know, traditional way. You know, what's your mission? What is, and then once you figure out the mission, I believe that investors will come. You know, people who actually, you know, support your mission. I see that all the time. You know, I live in Los Angeles, California. I travel around the world. I see this all the time. Guys, focus on your mission, and money will follow. That's what I believe.
So Celsius, the company it's my project, right? My ICO. I don't have a single VC. Why? Because if you're trying to build a community, get the community to invest. So we have over 3,000 people who are investing in the project. Okay, we didn't do the ICO yet. This is just the pre-sale. And I'm hoping to hit 10,000 people before I do the ICO, right? Because if I'm doing it for the community, by the community, for the people, by the people, that contradicts with going to a VC and having a concentrated position with a guy that wants to flip the stuff 3 months from now. So again, I agree with everything that's said here. If you want to build something, focus on building it, and if the community likes it, they will vote with their wallets. They will give you their Ether, they'll give you their dollars, and they'll give you their Bitcoin if they have any left. Next question.
My name is Artem Zhilin. We developing the project in London Sphere. So my question is about VC funding after ICO. You mentioned that there is no way for ICO project to raise VC funding after ICOs. But what about small ICOs, about $1 million and $2 million? Do you see that they can raise the next fund from VCs?
I didn't say there was no way. I said that if you can raise money from venture, if you're good enough to raise money in Silicon Valley, don't do an ICO. That's what I said, which is very different. There are a lot of VCs now who have pockets for crypto. They take tokens, and there's nothing wrong with that. I'm not saying in any way that that's bad or you shouldn't do it or anything like that. I'm just separating the two worlds, right? So if you, like, we are requiring a lockup for many of our contributors, right? Because we're basically testing their trust in the project. Do you really believe in the project? Then you would sign a lockup. If you don't believe in that project, you just want to flip it, I don't need you. It's not helping me build the community. So again, I'm thinking the next 100, my job is to find the next 100 million people to join crypto. That's my job. That's how I'm thinking. Every day I wake up in the morning, 100 million, where I'm going to find them, what's going to bring them in, right? All that world, that the fast money world, that just want to flip stuff, they could care less about everything that I'm just talked about. So you have to understand what the investor wants from you, because it's not like they love you and they're like your parents and they want you to do so well and everything else. They have their own interests. They have to return, they have to have a rate of return to their investors. And they have to beat other people who have a high rate of returns. They have to do even better than those guys, right? So the motives, all the incentives are the wrong incentives. Wrong for ICOs, wrong for long-term community building. They're great for making money and flipping and short-term gains and bragging about it at parties. It's excellent for that.
Okay, thank you. Do you have to add something?
I can add. So you're concerned that once you do ICO, you are not going to be VC fundable, or what? Right? That's your issue.
No, I mean that as I see my point, that if you have small ICO and if the token economy works well, and if it's possible to have VC funding, you can get the next round from VCs also. But Alex also pointed that he separated that it was about Valley, not actually my question, just in another point, you know.
I'm just not sure I understand the logic. So you do ICOs, and why would you go to VCs?
So basically, when you develop the project, and even Vitalik Buterin said that Ethereum Foundation slowly getting run out of the money they raised during their ICO. So while you develop your own project, and if it's, for example, blockchain protocol, you have no money to continue. You know, so that's the way. Because
yeah, but VCs are basically okay. VCs are a unique institutional investors asset class, and the uniqueness is that the value of your company is basically based on whether you are going to be acquired or go public. So VCs are exit-driven, basically fund managers. So when you do ICO, you basically selling your token, and your goal is to create a market large enough so that your token will be basically valuable by the network, right? So the incentives are completely different. I'm not sure, Alex, you tell me if there is like uniting, can we unite eventually VCs and ICO? I'm not sure. I would love to create some kind of economic model for that, but again, I'm not sure that's the issue at this point, but happy to talk afterwards.
I guess it's just another panel for this.
let me just try a short cut on them. We have questions.
Sure.
So what Alex is saying, he separated, and I agree with that, right? Because crowdfunding, at least initially, the idea was that you can't raise money for some reason. It's a revolutionary idea, or you're not in the right place, right time, whatever. Then you go with crowdfunding. Now, do maybe a more, again, I'm going to use the word pragmatic comparison, Kickstarter. ICO, to me, is a lot more like Kickstarter on steroids, and it's crypto, great. Number of Kickstarter campaigns funded by Kickstarter crowds got eventually VC money, number of them. A lot of them didn't deliver exactly like in ICOs, but they can. Theoretically, they can. So your answer is, should I do it? I would go with Alex and Victor's recommendation. If you can raise VC money, don't. Or unless your goal, your mission is building a community, then forget about the VCs. But start from the foundation, right? What is it that you want? Who is it that is your ideal consumer, customer, client? Then you target them, like he said. They'll vote with their wallet, right? But it's not like, no, don't try. You can do, because investor first thing is going to say, show me your capitalization table. If you have 10 million people on your capitalization table, investor is going to say, like, are you joking? What are you doing with me? Right, so thanks.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, and next question. There was another here, right there. Can you give him the mic? Yeah, lady in the back. She was first, so
Hi, it's not so much of a question, it's actually more of an observation. So I think in the market today, especially for cryptocurrencies, there is actually a confusion, right? And when we're talking about confusion, it's really more about doing what is necessary for advertising and promotion, and then whether or not that would hook. I mean, I'm coming from, say, somebody who wants to do an ICO or a project or get funding, right? How do I get to the investors? So it's a kind of like a chicken and egg situation whereby you can't really put in the traditional mindset into it where I go to different VCs and I try to pitch to them anymore. Because I've had VCs coming to us post doing the A&P rather than the other way around. So while it's all great and nice to have, I mean, absolutely, the points that you've raised are spot on, and they're actually really accurate. If people believe in your project, they will give you the support. But right now, I think it's a cusp of where it's a mishmash of so many different things, and even people who want to raise money for the project is really confusing. So I guess, I mean, I don't think there is really a straight cut answer for that, to be honest. But some opinions of what you think might
it goes
be good.
back to the question that was asked here before, right? That how do you get that first few $100,000 to be able to do the marketing and everything else? So let me give you some stats. We are spending less than 2% of the money we raised on sales and marketing. Until now, it's been 100% PR. One of the projects I'm advising spent 30 cents on the dollar. 30 cents of every dollar on marketing and promotion and so on. So each project has its own reasons, its own destiny and its own viability, and you can't copy somebody else, okay? This is, like I said, it's a Cambrian explosion. Every creature has its own life and its own path, and it either ends up in a dead end or it becomes humanity. So we don't know. Believe me, if anyone in this room tells you they're going to know what's going to succeed, you know, if you met Jack Ma in 1998, would you invest in him? He was a mediocre English teacher who didn't speak any English. If you met Vitalik when he was 18 and he talked about a whole new world, would you invest in him? You would not invest in Vitalik for sure, believe me. So a lot of the people that you think are now the heroes were people that everybody looked at them and said they're weird. I'm not even talking to this guy, right? So it's all, you have to have, it's all about you staring at yourself in the mirror. It's not about everyone else. If you really believe in what you're doing and it has a lot of followers, it's going to be successful. That's it. You just have to wake up every morning and focus on that.
So just one more question. What is your perspective on paid advisors versus real, true advisors? I mean, let's face it, like you mentioned, there's so many ICO projects out there with 20 different advisors. I don't think they really have the clout to actually get that many advisors. So half the time, they did pay for those advisors.
There are very few Buddhas out there. Everybody else is here for the money.
I am a Buddha. No, actually, I advise quite a few, either for token or for free, because I've been mentoring as part of SOSV. But yeah, I like your question quintessentially is, do you have to pay an advisor or no? It's, to me, I believe there is a value for value exchange. I only advise, and I'm quite big, I advise companies that I really believe in. I go all in. And some of them choose, and the keyword is choose to reward me, however small or big that is. But you want really a believer. I mean, whether that's a crypto investor, whatever, you want people who are your ambassadors, your believers. That's your ideal goal, right? And advisor has to be 10 times more that than your investor. Yeah, he has to be someone who is going to brag about your company more than about his family. And he's going to be there on the phone like Alex or I or Victoria talking all the time. And at one point, I asked one of my advisors, I'm like, you know, I actually like have a job, but I said it in a half joking way. You know, you are not the only one. You know, I have another 3 and I have like girlfriend, and can I like talk to you tomorrow this time if that's okay? That's the kind of advisor you want. You don't want someone who is talking to you once a month, and I know a lot of them, who just says, oh, you should be more customer centric. Or think of the other blockchains, like very generic, vague, and basically not value-adding advice. And yeah, obviously you have to give them something in exchange if they value it.
I think the reason that you ask this question, again, I'm not sure if I'm right. You correct me. That well, there are 2 types of advisors. I would definitely recommend to make sure that you speak with the advisors you need, right? So, for example, you know, attorneys, you know, people who basically put a lot into education and experience, and obviously they want to be compensated, or, you know, financial people, you know, people who can help you to review a white paper. And again, I say review white paper. I don't like the idea to write a white paper. Although, for example, you know, we can provide such services, but I truly believe that entrepreneur should be able to write his business plan, to write his white paper. And then again, you know, folks like us, you know, as companies, you know, can review it. But I don't like advisor that would ask you for money in you know, promising you to raise some capital. That's you know, something that you might be, you know, careful about.
Question.
Hi. Can you hear me? Is it? Yeah. I've been listening to a few panels talk about issuing ICOs and the dichotomy between securitization or utility and I guess the regulatory overlay of what's allowed in that space. What's your, I guess, advice in incentivizing utility so that it benefits the firm that, or you know, the invention, the entrepreneur venture?
Utility token is something that's going to be the thing of the past. I don't believe that, I think most regulators are going to sooner or later shut it down. I think the US, you'll hear about it next week probably. The US, that's why, in my view, the reason all the coins are dropping right now is because the news have leaked out that the SEC and the CFTC are about to basically come out publicly and repeat what they said a month ago, that there's no such thing as a utility token. So they consider any coin or token as security, basically. So, which is threatening 90% of the people who raise money, because now some of them have to return money, they have to return the ether or whatever, and they sold it already, or they spent it already, and so on, so on. So there's like a vicious cycle there that it's not good for the community. But you know, like we put our project from day one as a Reg D, Regulation D, as if it's a security. We only accept accredited investors. It raises the bar, it makes everything much more difficult, but it allows you to, you know, to at least be ready in case the law changes. So all I'm recommending is for you to skip that step of utility token. I think we're out of time. So thank you for everybody, and thanks for coming to the event.